Hello and welcome. My name, for those of you who don't know me, is Martin Stepik, and I've been teaching mindfulness since 2004, so around 16 years. And I've been practicing it. In other words, I've been trying to make it the mainstay of how I do my life for 21 years now. And I've been teaching locally here in Lanarkshire and nationally and internationally occasionally. And I've written 6 books on the subject. However, what I want to do in this series of talks is to explore the coronavirus crisis and how it's affecting you and me and everyone else. And from that starting point, start to look at how we can deal with our fears, our worries, our uncertainties in a mindful way, by being able to notice them when they're arising, not allow them to take us over, and to then put in their place something more constructive, more helpful to a situation. And when I was thinking about starting this whole process just now, the first thing that came to my mind was not so much the people who are suffering from coronavirus or us, the general public, but the NHS workers, the doctors, the nurses, their assistants, their helpers, and the carers and the people going into care homes who are risking being infected with this coronavirus themselves. In other words, they are putting their own lives at risk in order to help others. And it strikes me that should bring in all of us a sense of gratitude, a really deep sense of gratitude. And mindfulness, one of its key traits is an understanding of what's actually going on in the present moment, and therefore a deep sense of gratitude for hundreds of things. Despite the fact that we're all mostly cooped up just now, the very fact that I'm able to talk to you and you're able to listen to me through technology is something that is actually astonishing, and we should be incredibly grateful for. But we tend to take these things for granted. We tend not to actually notice them when they become mundane and everyday. But when I take a step back from that, I think again of the people at the NHS, and I started reflecting on my own life. I would say that, without exaggeration, if it wasn't for the expertise and the care and the commitment of people in the NHS, my wife would probably be dead by now, while giving birth to my son Ian, and he would probably be dead by now. He was born with an APGAR score of 1 out of 10. An APGAR score is signs of life in a newborn. So he's alive because of strangers who worked in the NHS, as is Christine, because that was an emergency, troubled labour and birth. And then my wife has been hospitalised again years later with a massive hemorrhaging, and although they didn't get to the bottom of it, they probably saved her life again just by stabilising things. And 8 years ago my parents died 3 weeks apart. Still hard to accept that and hard to imagine it, but they were cared for by NHS staff, particularly my mum in her last weeks, and in my dad's case taken to Hare Myers Hospital and just held there effectively, so that we could all be with him when he died. And these were things of massive importance to me personally, and I'll never forget that help that they gave me, the solace. And then we've had a difficult time as a family. In the last 15 months I've lost 3 people I love dearly. Firstly, my younger brother David, who died of lung cancer aged 57, and again his last days were being spent in hospital, here Myers again, and cared for by strangers. And then 6 months later, his sister and my sister Maria, died after a decade of struggling with kidney cancer, which she managed to do with great grace and dignity. And she was cared for at that time. And then 6 months later again, 5 months later, my Aunt Danka, my beautiful, it's astonishing. She was 3 stone 12 at the age of 15, spent 2 years in a Soviet labour camp. And these strangers in this beautiful thing we call the NHS saved her life. And that's all well and good, but what's that to do with gratitude and mindfulness? Mindfulness says, try to notice what's going on in the present moment, without judging, but really notice. And if we stop and look at our lives just now, and the lives of the people in Spain and Italy and South Korea and China and Japan, and all the places where this virus has taken hold and either temporarily shook the whole country or is still doing so, right at the core of that are doctors and nurses trying to help human beings stay alive. And we know that doctors and nurses have died doing that just now. And mindfulness says, try and notice the reality of your own life. And when you do, you start to see thousands of things that we should be, I was going to say running up and down the street, but we're not allowed to do that right now. But we should be jumping for joy. And I mean, anybody listening who go regularly to my classes will know I say this every week. But we should be almost crying with joy that we've got a bed, that we've got a mattress, that we've got a pillow to lay our head. I can pick up this glass, which means I've got the health and the strength to pick it up. I can feel the coolness of the water on my fingertips, and that's a sign of being alive. I can feel the beauty, the smoothness of it, and if I lift it up, because my window is half sort of closed with the blinds, there's a kind of shade and light, and there's a beauty to that. And I got the water from a tap. Now, for most of humanity, this was from a well, and you hoped some pig hadn't fallen in the well and contaminated it before you got it. Or you went for a drink upstream and you hoped that a lamb or a cow hadn't contaminated it. Otherwise you'd be dead. And we can do this. And we can know that this is safe. So mindfulness, first of all, says, try and notice and be grateful for everything that you have, especially life itself, especially at this time when we know it's precious and it's to some extent at risk. So we build up mindfulness to do that, and I'll come to mindfulness practice shortly. But the other area I want to discuss is compassion, which you can probably already have heard in my voice a couple of times. We should feel for those who are being affected by this, the people whose loved ones have lost their lives, the people who are worried that they are in intensive care or that they might go into intensive care, that things might worsen, and also compassion for the doctors' families, the nurses' families who have been fallen ill themselves. In mindfulness and its origins in Buddhism, mindfulness is not just, compassion is not just I feel sorry for these people. Compassion has an element to it that says, therefore I want to help. And I guess that's what Boris Johnson and Nicola Sturgeon's messages have been right from the start, with the scientists and the medical experts behind them and beside them. They're essentially saying, do these things that constrain your life. Why? because they might just save other people's lives. It's not just about you, it's about the people that you might contaminate accidentally. And that's compassion, because it's the feeling of empathy and the feeling of connection and care towards someone else, and then doing something about it. So I don't even need to reiterate the fact that we should be following the guidance and the rules absolutely strictly just now. So what else can we do? Well, in essence, this is what I'm doing just now. This is me in my own time, my working time, saying I can do some stuff here that might help ease some people's feelings, soothe some people at times of difficulty. I mean, I've done recordings for hospices, for both the people who are just about to die and their families. And you have to understand mindfulness at a kind of deep level to be able to tailor it to individuals. So what I'll be able to share with you just now is kind of more general, but hopefully it will allow you, and you can watch this time and again and just flick forward past my talking so much and get straight into a practice. But the practice can alleviate our worries and our fears and our negativity. It can help us flip the mind from negatives to the positives. What else can we do? And it doesn't suppress emotions. It doesn't try and squish them down, because we know psychologically that's unhealthy and unhelpful. But rather, it just allows us to gently and subtly switch attention to something more constructive than our worries. So let's do a little practice just now. It'll only be for a couple of minutes. And if you can, now some of you will be maybe even lying in bed doing this, or sitting slouched on a couch. The best place to do it in terms of seating is actually something like a kitchen table. Something that's got a nice back upright and a wee bit of cushioning so that it's not uncomfortable, but not so comfortable that you actually start falling asleep leaning back. But don't worry overly about that, but maybe just for the future, if you're tuning into this, just say, okay, let's get one of those almost comfortable seats that he keeps telling us about. So, okay, if we can sit with our feet flat on the floor, and again, don't worry if this doesn't quite work from the type of place you're sitting at, but it's just general. Feet flat on the floor gives a bit of stability. The smaller the backing against the back of your chair, back nice and upright so that you're feeling alert. One hand on top of the other, so it's kind of like that, upside down, so like that. So not laced over, but one on top of the other, placed in the lap. That just gets the hands out of the way as a distraction. Then just dip your head down and gently close your eyes. Just to begin with, see if you can allow your mind just to look in itself, if you like, so that you can start to notice gently and calmly, without trying to change anything, just what's your mind like just now? Is it agitated? Is it concerned? Is it bored from what I was saying? Is it impatient to get on with the practice, which is what you came for? Or are you still thinking about what you heard in the news? Or maybe you're thinking, I don't even know if I'll be able to get some toilet paper in the next 10 days. Just see what's going on in your mind. Don't judge it, don't try and change it. But what you see, what you notice, if anything, is a reflection of who you are just now. And we do vary from time to time who we are. There's a grumpy version of me, that's for sure. There's a tired version of me. There's a boring version of me. There's also a kind version of me, and there's a thoughtful version of me, and same with you. And it's useful to start to notice and get skilled at noticing what kind of person are we just now, what's going on in what we call our automatic mind just now that influences and directs us. But notice also that when you do this with the eyes closed and in a nice, upright but relaxed posture, you can start to feel a bit relaxed while doing it. So you can be grumpy but feeling okay about being grumpy. You can feel bored, but actually you feel fairly pleasant, because there's now another part of the brain working as well, the prefrontal cortex. And whereas the amygdala causes all the automatic stuff, the worry, the fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty that plague us just now, this prefrontal cortex is more or less like your calm big sister or big brother saying, hang on a wee second, let's just pause and have a look. Let's see the whole picture. Okay, look, it's not as bad as we think. Let's just think about it another way. And that's essentially what we're trying to do with mindfulness. Bring in this other, more recently evolved part of the brain to supplant and take over from the fear-driven and survival-driven part of the brain that's more ancient. But now that we're a little bit maybe more settled, just start to notice the air flowing in through your nostrils. And slow down your breathing to about half or 3/4. That way you're able to notice the sensations better, because they're not flowing in too fast. And after a couple of rounds of breath, you start to notice what those sensations feel like. So an in-breath feels clear, very fresh, whereas an out-breath feels quiet and peaceful. So that's all we do, we just allow the attention to relax, but we flow the attention in with the breath, so that you feel this clear, 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 clear. And then this quiet and peaceful, quiet and peaceful, quiet and peaceful. And of course those two key words, clear and peaceful, have got associations with feelings in the mind. For a mind to be clear, it feels good. There's no distractions, there's no concerns, there's nothing in the way. And of course the word peaceful just is one of the great wishes, I think, of most people. They want to feel at peace. So as the air flows in, you think clear. Just imagine your mind crystal clear, empty. It's lovely. And as you breathe out, you just feel at peace. Clear and peaceful. And if at any time your mind wanders to worries or distractions, even sounds in the house, or your own thoughts, that's always okay. Never get annoyed at yourself for being distracted, or annoyed at the cause of the distraction, because that's just more distraction. Instead, just take your attention back to the breath. This nice, light, gentle breathing. Slowed down, feeling clear flowing in. Feeling beautifully peaceful flowing back out. And then to just aid the current situation, you can just think to yourself, may my mind always be clear, all the way through this crisis. And may I build up this feeling of peace every day so that I can handle this crisis better. May my mind always be clear, so think clearly and do the right thing through this period. And may my mind grow in peace so that I can handle not just this crisis, but everything else that life can throw at me in the years and decades to come. Just notice a couple more rounds of breath, just enjoying it this time, just noticing the freshness and the peace of it. And a last parting thought. Think to yourself, may everyone in the world be well and be safe. Even knowing that some people will die and some people will contract this virus. It's the wish in your heart that you want people to be safe that we're trying to cultivate so that that grows inside you as well. So may everyone in the world be safe and be well. And feel your sensation of care for them. And now just take your attention to your eyelids and just notice how gentle they are, how peaceful. And noticing their gentleness and sense of peace helps you become a little bit more gentle and peaceful right now. And then giving yourself 2 or 3 minutes, there's no rush, but when they're ready and in their own time, just allow yourself to find your eyelids very, very slowly, softly and gently start to open. And as they do, keep your eyes downward gazed and unfocused and away from the screen that you're on just now, so the glare doesn't hit you too hard, too fast. Just trust your eyes to slowly and gently return to focus. Take your time. Just take your I'll say thank you for joining me, and my goodbyes. This evening I'm doing another session, I think it's at 6:30. We've called it Mindfulness at Home. We have to charge for it because it's webinar based for technological reasons. Just looking at my diary to make sure. Yeah, it's 6:30 to 7:15. For those who may not be able to afford that £5, we are trying to sort it, but if you look at our 10 4Zen site, or email info@104zen.co.uk, we'll be able to give you answers and hopefully help you that way. So this is a first for me, doing it on Facebook Live. I've done lots of webinars and other things before, so I hope you found that helpful and useful, and I look forward to doing more of the same on different themes of how we can make sure that we're well and that we're taking care of ourselves and taking care of others through this difficult period. Keep well and try and enjoy, and remember that life's good despite